So thank you for coming to this Ready, Set, Sell webinar. I'm Nadia. For anybody who doesn't know me, but I think you all know me, I'm a realtor with On the Block Realty. And like I said, I think a lot of people do these kind of seminars and educational things for buyers. But I think that sellers have a lot of questions about the process. So I'm really grateful that three amazing experts in their fields, four amazing experts in their fields have joined me this evening. Michelle Perugia of Mortgage Outlet and Cognitive Capital is an incredible mortgage broker. I can't say enough good things about you and just how real you are. Your messaging, you don't shy away from talking about a lot of the things that I feel a lot of people do shy away from talking about, which I appreciate so much. So I'm really excited about what you have to share for us today. Nabila and Ligaya are the staging company, lifestyle home staging. I use them for all of my listings. They're fantastic at what they do. And Tom Rando is with Clearview Home Inspections, and he's going to share a little bit about kind of what goes wrong in the home inspection process, what you can be doing to get your home ready for market, the things that kind of commonly come up on home inspections and why buyers walk away so that you can be well prepared. So without further ado, we will jump right in. I feel like I said, I kind of want to go deeper in this and talk about kind of some of the stuff that a lot of people in the profession, in the industry, are shying away from talking about. But I think that it would be doing an injustice to the people who are complete noobs to the process without kind of reviewing an overview of just the general process, high level. So I've kind of broken it down here. Real estate home selling 101. Obviously, you choose your realtor. You're going to sign some paperwork. You're going to prepare your home for sale. That could involve a home inspection, doing some repairs, staging. You're going to take professional photos. You're going to prepare marketing materials, list and execute a marketing plan. You're going to have buyer showings. You're going to receive offers and negotiate. You're going to satisfy any conditions. And then you're going to select a lawyer to close the deal for you, and you're going to finalize your sale and move. That's really high level. And each one of those items on that process, I can talk about for 20 minutes. So we're not going to do that for the sake of time tonight. But one of the things that I do want to chat a little bit about, because I think it's important, is choosing a realtor. And that can, obviously choose me. People chose me. But I see a lot of mistakes sometimes, and I can't really chat about other real estate agents' practices, and like everybody does their business a different way. But I thought that it would be important to kind of go over the do's and the don'ts for when you're selecting a real estate agent, because the stuff that I shared on my last slide, all that stuff from 2 to 11, it can be a lot easier for you if you have the right person that you've chosen in step number 1. So quickly go through some of that. Wrong way. So do's, when you're picking a realtor, you're definitely going to want to pick based on experience. Experience doesn't necessarily mean years in the business. It could mean how many deals are under your belt, is usually a way that I think is a better frame of reference anyway. Each deal that we do, we learn so much. So having somebody with the knowledge, and that's not just knowledge about a particular product or niche segment of the market, condos, houses, whatever, but also location, and somebody who's getting, has the market knowledge, who is reviewing the data on a regular basis, who is seeing the inventory in their market, and who has a team supporting them. So somebody who's with a brokerage that provides the education and constant learning so that their realtors are at the top of their game. And that doesn't mean that you're not selecting somebody who's new. There could be somebody, you might want to work with somebody who's new as a realtor in the business, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as they've got the support system in place so that all of your needs as a seller are being met. What you don't want to do when you're thinking about selling, is choose a realtor based on family obligation. I can't tell you how many times I have seen people go with their aunt or their uncle or their cousin, and usually not usually, almost always. When you mix business with family, there's always something that just doesn't go the way that you want, or something that goes unsaid, or something that leaves somebody with a sour taste in their mouth. So just be careful that whoever you're picking to represent you is balanced. I mean, great if it's somebody in your family, but that they meet all the items on the dues list as well. You don't want to be working with somebody because they told you that they can get you the highest price for your home, because there's a lot of realtors out there that will tell you they can get you a certain price. And if you're interviewing multiple realtors, the one who tells you the highest price that they can get you isn't necessarily the person that is the best fit for the job. So that's something to consider. You don't want to pick the realtor just because they solicited you, somebody who knocks on their door because they say they have a buyer for your home. We see a lot of that, especially in a market where there's very little inventory. And hey, if you want to sell your home to a buyer privately because their realtor knocks on your door, that's great. I'm just saying it's probably a good idea to get a second opinion, because that realtor is probably out to protect their buyer's best interests, not yours. And then you don't want to be picking your realtor based on commissions. I mean, obviously, what you're going to pay at the end of the day will vary. And money is obviously a determining factor for a lot of people, and I don't blame them for that. But what's cheap isn't always good, and what's good isn't always cheap. And the level of service that you get at different commission structures are super important to take into consideration when you're choosing who you want to work with. So I'll just say that. So jumping right into what I commonly get asked when I go to a listing presentation, when I meet with a seller for the first time, what sellers want to know is basically these 6 things. Is now a good time to sell? What do you think my home's worth? What's this going to cost me? What's included in your services? Like, what are you going to do to sell my home? How long will it take? And what could go wrong? Like what? Yeah. And I'm not going to talk a lot about all these things, but and when it comes to timing, especially, I feel like Michelle might be able to talk a little bit about timing as well, because I think we get this question a lot. And really, there is no good time. It's when is a good time for you. And I think that each person who asks this, their situation is going to be very, very different. And the advice that you get and I give, or somebody like Michelle would give, will vary depending on your situation. Trying to time the market based on whether rates are up or down, prices are up or down, it's often a losing battle. And sure, there are people who do it and have done it and done well. But it's better to make decisions like that based on your needs, like your financial needs, your, job, career, location needs, things like that. And what I wanted to say in that is that if a realtor is pushing you to make a decision that now is the best time to sell, or that you have to do it now, you might want to reconsider working with that person, because a good realtor is going to give you the time to make sure that it's the right decision for you and walk you through that process of making that decision. What's my house worth is the other big question that we get. I've got a little bit of a meme here, which I personally think is funny. Sellers be like, my house should get more than my neighbors because I upgraded to stainless steel appliances. And it's a joke. Like, a seller would think that somebody wants to buy their comical Mario brick cabinets. But the point is that value is subjective, and as much as you love your home and you want all buyers to love your home, I can promise you nobody's going to love your home as much as you do. So that thing that you love, that you think is worth a lot of money, or that buyers should be willing to pay a lot for, I hate to break it to you, but chances are they're not going to think of it as favorably as you do, or they won't necessarily hold as high of a value for that particular item that you see as a major selling feature as you might in your head. Maybe they will, but be prepared for the fact that they won't. So when we're valuing homes, typically it's the direct comparison approach. We look at comparables. And that will be like other homes that have sold recently in the neighborhood that are similar to yours in number of bedrooms, lot size, number of renovations. But sometimes we can't get a great direct comparison. In a low inventory market, especially coming off the year we've just had where there haven't been a ton of sales, I might get asked to give an evaluation on a property and it's difficult to come up with comparables. And in that case, sometimes we'll fall back on things like the cost approach, where, we're trying to say, okay, well, what would it cost to put in an additional bedroom or an additional bathroom? Or what is a garage worth? What's parking worth in today's market? And try to assign a value that way and come up with what we think is a fair market value for your home. That being said, though, it's really important to talk about how there's three different kinds of value that I've listed here. There's assessed value, there's appraised value, and there's market value. And I'm sure that Michelle might talk a little bit more about appraised value. But so assessed value, they're all three very different things, and they're not the same number. Assessed value, that's what like the city looks at and for the purposes of your property taxes. Appraised value is what bank says your home is worth for all intents and purposes. And market value is not what I say your home's worth as your realtor, not what you think your home is worth, but market value is what a buyer is willing to pay for your home if exposed to the open market in fair, reasonable conditions. So it's important to, again, recognize that sometimes what you think your home is worth and what a buyer is willing to pay are very different things. And then what the bank says it's worth and what it appraises for might be something completely different also. And working with a realtor who's going to be able to know the neighborhood that you're selling in well, to be able to really pinpoint what that value is, so that instead of a massive range and hitting the market not knowing what the target price is, you've got a pretty good idea of where that's going to end up. And somebody who can fight and negotiate well for every penny of value that your home is worth. So just some things to consider. I always get asked, what's it going to cost? What's included? And in terms of real estate fees and like any service-based business, really, whether it's home inspector, a stager, a mortgage broker, I'm sure you guys have heard of the triangle, the iron triangle. They say you can have cheap, good, and fast, but you can only have two of those things. So if you want good and fast, it's not going to be cheap. If you want fast and cheap, it's probably not going to be good. And I just always encourage my sellers to think about that when they're interviewing realtors and mortgage brokers and service professionals that they want to work with, because there is, again, a very large scale of services that can or cannot be included by different realtors and professionals. So to keep that in mind. But when it comes to the Toronto real estate market, the average commissions that most people are paying is anywhere between 4% and 6%. Can you have it done cheaper? Absolutely. Can you pay more for it? Absolutely, and get more services. But again, it's a sliding scale. And I personally find that when I'm taking on a listing, I like to look at what is going to be required to sell that listing. I personally believe that at the very minimum, full service should include professional photos, the offer to stage the home to some extent, and a home inspection to find out what we're dealing with. I think those are all marketing tools. Yeah, there are other agents out there that might include a handyman for a day or to put your stuff in storage for you or different things. I believe that a great realtor is somebody who's going to look at the unique property needs as well as the unique seller's needs and develop a plan and a commission rate that is reflective of what's required. And then a good realtor is also going to go above and beyond. So, I've got clients that don't require staging or this or that or the other thing, but they need a little bit more hand holding, or they need a little bit more support on the financial side of things. So that all has to be assessed when looking at your needs as a seller. What is it that you need? And being aware of that before you go into the selling process is important, is recommended. How long will it take? Right now, the days on the market has gone up a lot from the 6 days that we were at like a year ago. And it really depends. Market fluctuations can happen, as we all know. You could list a property today and you're the only thing on the market, and tomorrow 3 other houses come up and you're competing with them, and all of a sudden the buyer pool is split between those homes, and maybe yours isn't as attractive anymore. How competitively priced the listing is, and of course the listing strategy. You could list it 200 below market value and set an offer date, and chances are you might get it done fast. Will you get it done where you want it to be? And if you don't get it done, where do you go from there? Is it a relisting strategy? Is it a repricing strategy? The point is that you want to be working with somebody who understands the market fluctuations, who understands the data, can explain the data to you of what's going on in the market, and then adapt and pivot as required to get the job done. And as of right now, we're seeing days on the market is going down. Inventory is very low right now. So is it a good time to sell? I mean, compared to a few months ago, absolutely. And so right now homes are selling pretty quickly if they're priced right. What could go wrong? Murphy's Law. We talk about Murphy a lot in real estate because we're pretty sure Murphy was a lawyer, was a realtor, not a lawyer. But what's the saying? If something can go wrong, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And again, this is just so the importance of working with somebody who's done a lot of deals, who has the experience behind them. You could have no showings, you could have no offers, you could have a failed home inspection, which I'm sure Tom is going to talk a little bit about. You could have a failed appraisal, which I'm sure Michelle could talk to you a little bit about. And there's so many other things that could go wrong. When you have somebody who's done a lot of deals behind you, it means that you have less likely, if problems are going to happen, your realtor knows what to do to navigate through those problems. And then I just want to stress again how important it is to have like a well-oiled machine of professionals working with you, like your realtor, your mortgage broker, your lawyer, your home inspector, your insurance broker, and even your marketing services like your photographers and your stagers. When the right people are connected and chatting with each other, it makes the process so much smoother and easier for you. And it makes it so that when fires, if there's a little bit of a spark, even when there's a spark, you smell it, we're able to put out the fires before they even happen because we're working together as a well-oiled machine. So that's, I think, all I wanted to cover about the real estate side of things. I really wanted to let the professionals and the experts and the guests speak more about their expertise. And I think this is what a lot of people have joined for this evening. As an aside, you can follow me on Instagram. I have just recently completed rolling out a seller's guide of reels and content on Instagram. So you can find that under the guides tab of my Instagram profile. And I would love it if you checked it out. If you've got any questions about the selling process or any of the stuff that I've talked about or will be talked about tonight, reach out. Without further ado, let me just stop sharing and let me make Michelle the host. And I think you should be able to share your screen now.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. I feel a lot of very similar kind of sentiments that you highlighted during your portion there, Nadia, that I could literally speak about so many topics and go into nitty-gritty details for 20 minutes a piece. So what I really wanted to do and focus on in this kind of first-time sellers seminar is obviously the financing surrounding sellers, and really the three most popular financing conversations that I have with sellers. A lot of people think that when you're selling your home, they're focused on kind of those real estate aspects. And a lot of people don't realize how many intricate and kind of niche pieces of mortgage financing can come into play here. So the first and certainly most common question that I hear when somebody says, hey, I'm thinking about selling my home, is oftentimes there's a buy attached to that. And the question is, I can't sell my home and I can't buy this new home because I don't have any cash for a deposit because it's actually in my house. And especially in the Canadian economy, Canadians are definitely very heavily invested in real estate. It is not uncommon for us to see the bulk of a Canadian's wealth accumulated within the equity of their home. So very quickly, for those of you that are not aware, I just really want to define what a deposit is. A deposit is essentially a portion of your down payment that you are expected to pay, within 24 hours of getting an accepted offer on the buy side. And for some people, that's nerve-wracking because some people may be, kind of taking care of all of those task lists that Nadia went over, preparing their home, staging their home, getting it on the market, doing all the photos and those things. And that takes a little bit of time. And then all of a sudden, they're scrolling realtor.ca every day and the next house that they want to purchase comes up and they're super excited about it. And they're thinking, holy shit, my house is not sold and I need money to put a deposit down. So there's really multiple ways that we could help somebody from the mortgage side of things get their deposit if their home is on its way to being sold, is not currently sold yet. And I could kind of take all the different ways and put them into two categories. One of them is using the home equity in the home that you're thinking of selling before it liquidates. And the other is not using home equity. And I want to highlight that because I obviously, earn my money when people access home equity, but that doesn't always mean that that's the right thing for a client to do. And, when you kind of look up reviews and you see like multiple money signs or just one money sign, like very frankly, I put one money sign next to not using home equity because oftentimes these are the cheaper ways to access a deposit. And the right solution for a client is going to depend on a number of things. And these are typically some of the questions that I ask myself. How much money do we need? How long are we going to need it for? What is the most cost-effective way for us to access this money? And is that available to you? So some of the most cost-effective ways that I see people access a deposit for a new purchase while they're in the process of selling their home is by using unsecured lines of credit or getting somebody within their family to kind of spot them the funds. Okay. And we're technically not touching the home equity, but we're speaking for some of the home equity. And I will show you what I mean by that in a moment. If those things are not available to you, we can certainly look at second mortgage options, taking out a home equity line of credit, doing what I call a deposit loan. And yes, these are a little bit more expensive than us maybe using some of the avenues that are not directly touching home equity, but oftentimes we can take some of those costs and wrap them right into the loan. So it's kind of a no headache way for us to access your deposit. And you can kind of go back to focusing on getting your home sold and actually liquidating that equity. Now, the one thing that I really want to make clear, because I find a lot of these financial concepts are very anxiety provoking for people looking to sell. And they're also difficult for people to wrap their head around. So if you're taking notes, the one thing I really want people to be aware of kind of through the context of the rest of the things that I'll say here is that the details of your application today and what's going on in your application today are not necessarily the same as the way that we will finalize the application when the loan actually closes. And your lender understands that. Okay. People are like, I know I'm not supposed to take out any debt, but can I use my line of credit to fund, my deposit today? What we do today and the way that we're setting up a loan for closing can be different things. And there's a lot of strategy that we kind of use to get this right and to do it in the most cost-effective way. So I just want to give you guys a quick example. Let's assume that you have a $1 million home and you currently hold a $500,000 mortgage against it. When you own a home and you have not sold the home, you can only access up to 80% of the equity in that home. So 80% of the equity of a $1 million home is $800,000. We've already spoken for $500,000 of that $800,000 because that's how much you owe on your current mortgage on that home. Well, we're purchasing another property and maybe, Nadia has done a really great job and negotiated on a $1.5 million home. Perhaps we have the opportunity to only put down a $50,000 down payment deposit. We have up to, I'm just gonna admit this person. We have up to $300,000 between what we've already spoken to and the total that we can access, which means us accessing $50,000 for a deposit here is certainly something that we can do. And we can choose to use different products on it. We can add a home equity line of credit. We can add a second mortgage. These will be priced differently and it all depends what your income qualifies for. And again, we'll be asking ourselves those questions. How long do we need this money? How quickly do we need to get the money out? Do we have a little bit of time to get it? Do we need it by the end of the day today? And I'll kind of reference back and kind of piggyback on Nadia's phrase there of, it's a bit of a sliding scale and and the triangle of what's the fastest, the cheapest, and the best. And we'll kind of figure out the best way to navigate that based on when you need it, how much you need, and for how long you'll need that. On the other side of the coin, we cannot use home equity. So again, same situation. We have a $1 million home with a $500,000 mortgage against it, but we have access to an unsecured line of credit or a family member who's willing to spot us. We didn't actually touch your home equity today, but we will intend to use that home equity to pay off debts that we've borrowed at the time of sale. More often than not, that will be the case. So we've put down our deposit. What about the rest of our down payment? How are we going to pay the rest of our down payment? Really depends on when is the closing of the new home that we're purchasing and when is the closing of the sale that we're making. So if your new home and your old home are closing on the same day, this is pretty straightforward. It's probably going to be a really stressful day for you moving, but there's a lawyer in the middle who's moving all types of money around and talking to the person buying your house and talking to the lawyer of the person's house that you're buying, and the lawyer will move these funds for you. They're coming in and out on the same day. If your old home is selling before you're closing on your new home, well, all of the equity within that old home has now liquidated ahead of time. And depending on the gap between those closing dates, for example, if I sold my home and it closed on Monday this week, and I know that I'm closing on my new home on Friday of this week, that's a pretty short gap. I probably don't want to ask my lawyer, hey, transfer me that money and then I'll bring it back to you on Friday to give it to the person whose home I'm buying. In that situation, I could just let my lawyer hold those funds for, the handful of days, and then boom, our lawyer will fire it off. I've certainly seen sellers sell a home and then not purchase a home for another 6 or 8 months. In that situation, your funds would probably come right back to you from your sale, and it would be like any other purchase you've ever done. For your first time home purchase, for example, where you're proving where your down payment proceeds are coming from in your own bank account. Nowadays, and it's funny because I always kind of joke that, early on in my career when I was still just figuring out what was going on, I would talk everybody out of a bridge loan, and I was really good at it. Because at the time when I first got into mortgages, they were more expensive than made sense. There wasn't as much stress and anxiety in the buying and selling of homes as we're seeing now with such low inventory, and obviously a bit of a supply and demand issue. Nowadays, I feel like everybody and their mom bridges a mortgage between homes. They don't like the idea of moving out of a home and into a home on the same day. They don't want to stay at, their family or their in-laws' house and get out of their home before getting into their new home. So more often than not, people are actually closing on their new home before their old home is sold. And in this situation, we need a bridge. And if you guys are taking notes, bridge is that buzzword. I want you guys to write down bridge loan. This is probably one of the most popular questions that I get from people selling their home. So what a bridge loan is essentially a type of loan where the mortgage lender on your new property is going to spot you the equity that has not yet liquidated from the sale of your home. Okay, so as long as you still own that home and it has not transferred to the new buyer's hands, there's money in there that we don't have yet, but we need that money to close on our new home. So that's essentially what a bridge loan is. And I want to give you guys an example. And my slides are always more boring and more kind of doused with words than I would like, but we're talking about some complex concepts. So if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at the end. Our current home is worth $1 million and we have that $500K mortgage on it. And we have a $50K deposit loan. Whether we took that $50K from earlier from the existing equity, or we borrowed it off a personal line of credit or from a family member, a total of $550,000 of the equity within this home is spoken for already. Okay. This home sale is closing on July 1st. Our new home, however, we're upsizing. We purchased a $1.5 million home. We already put that $50,000 deposit down. We need to put another $500,000 down. Our mortgage broker determined that, even though we have a $500,000 mortgage right now, our incomes have gone up. We've been doing a great job of kind of saving and getting our financial position better for our second home. And we're moving out of our first home. And now we qualify for a total mortgage of $950,000. Well, we've put down this $50,000. Where's the other $500,000 coming from? Because we're actually closing on this home on May 15th. What's going to happen on May 15th is our mortgage lender for this $950,000 is going to give us our new $950,000 mortgage. This is going to be priced at whatever the interest rate on your mortgage is for the term that you decide to take. Let's say that's 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. They're also going to give you a bridge loan for $500,000. Okay, so these two buckets of money, they are separated and they're priced differently and the terms on them are different. This $500,000 will be paid back to the mortgage lender holding your 950, because remember, they're just spotting it to you on July 1st when this home sells. Something really, really important that I want everybody to take note of is the fact that in order for any lender to be willing to spot you money, i.e. give you a bridge loan, they need to know for certain what the value of this property is. As Nadia mentioned earlier, the value of a property is subjective. And frankly speaking, what the value of a property actually is what a buyer is willing to pay for it in the current market. Which means if we do not have a firm sale agreement, we will not be approved for a bridge loan. There's no way in hell that a mortgage lender who are investors is just going to spot you 500 grand without being certain that there's 500 grand there to take. So if the home is not sold firm, we will not be getting the bridge loan. And it's important to note that we don't actually need this home to be sold firm on the date that we put the offer on this house, right? That situation that we were talking about before, Nadia is working really hard with the stagers and everybody, and we're getting the property ready. We're getting it ready to list. And we just so happen to fall in love with our next dream home and we needed it today. As long as we've done our pre-approval and looked at what our numbers are, we can put the offer on this home. If Nadia and yourself as the seller are comfortable saying, you know what, we're in a market right now where we know this property is going to sell, inventory is low, we've priced it right, et cetera, et cetera. As long as you get that firm sale agreement with enough of a lead time before you're looking to close on the new home, which I typically say if you want to get real stressful, we could do it in as little as 2 weeks. Ideally, you would have, a little bit more than 2 weeks, 3+ weeks until the closing on your new home. We would get that firm sale agreement and then we could get the bridge loan approved after the fact. Last but certainly not least is porting. And, to port or not to port, and will the banks answer this question is really something that I have been finding very interesting recently, especially in a climate where we have a lot of sellers who, potentially took out mortgages in the last couple of years and they have wicked rates that don't even look familiar to us anymore. So what is porting a mortgage? Let's start there. Porting a mortgage is you essentially picking a mortgage up from one property and bringing it to your new property with you. You pack it up like you pack up all the other stuff in your house and you want to move to your new house with that same mortgage that you had. Now, what if you need a mortgage on your new house? Like in the past situation, you had a $500,000 mortgage and you need a $950,000 mortgage on the new property. You would be able to bring over your $500,000 mortgage at the interest rate that it was priced at. And the additional $450,000 that you're asking for would be given to you by the same lender who ported your mortgage at whatever today's interest rates are. They're not just going to say, hey, you have a 2.5% from 3 years ago. We'll just match the 2.5% on the whole loan. They will actually blend those two rates together. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a moment. Sometimes this goes the other way. People are downsizing, right? And they're coming over to their new property seeking a smaller mortgage than the one that they have right now. Well, if your mortgage is smaller than the one that you need, or is larger than the one that you need on the new property, you may be able to actually pay the difference of that and experience no penalty. Most mortgages have prepayment privileges on them. And sometimes that ranges between 15 and 20% of the original mortgage balance that you took out. if the mortgage that you want on your new property is, let's say, within that kind of 20% range on your prepayment privileges, smaller, you could knock out that 20% when you move it over to the new property, and you would not experience any penalty. But let's say that the new mortgage that you need is 30% smaller than the mortgage that you had, you'd be able to pay down 20% within your prepayment privileges, and that last 10% would be subject to whatever your penalty terms are on your specific mortgage. And again, in a pre-approval phase, when you are, selling and kind of shopping for that new property, these would be things that you would discuss with your mortgage broker. What is the right answer to this question? Honestly, this really depends on the numbers, and it doesn't just depend on the numbers at face value. You really need to dig into these. This is actually a screenshot of an email that I sent a client a couple weeks ago. They had an existing mortgage at 2.19 for $445,000. I saw that. I was like, holy shit, 2.19. I haven't seen one of you in a really long time, like a really, really long time. At face value, people are like, there's no way that I'm breaking my 2.19. I need to take that with me. And I get it. It makes sense, right? But some things that you look at are not always what they seem. When we blended this 2.19 with the additional funds that they needed to get up to the $1 million loan they needed to close on their new home, their current mortgage is at a lender called Duca, who's a credit union. They're not very competitive in the new money that they're offering out right now. So we ended up at a total interest across the old money and the new money. They average it out against the 445 plus the additional funds at the new interest. Our average interest rate was 5.25%. I was like, that seems a little high relative to the rest of the market. So I wanted to take a look and figure out, even if we incurred a penalty and we were able to get a mortgage at a new lender for a lower rate, like, would the math? That's always the question I'm asking myself. Does the math? So we were able to actually move this loan to a new lender at 4.77%. There was a penalty of $3,500 to break this loan. When we compared these loans, at first, face value, were like, amazing, 2.19. We want to keep it. When we actually look at this, apples to apples over the next 3 years, breaking the mortgage and incurring this penalty allowed our client to save $10,000 over the 3 years on payments. So there's less money leaving their pocket. The total interest savings between the two loans was $14,000. So we have less money leaving their pocket, and the money that's still leaving their pocket is working harder for them. And at the maturity of these mortgages, the additional principal pay down was about $3,700. So when we look at these two situations, we're actually seeing a total savings by incurring a penalty of over $21,000 over the next 3 years. And this right here is probably the most fascinating thing about mortgages to me, and the thing that makes me the most relevant. The bank that this client was with would never show them this calculation. They would stick up on the fact that at face value, you have a 2.19. There's no way you want to break that. So I know that people are kind of curious about market updates, and I thought I would maybe just spend a quick 2 minutes doing that just before I tie things off. But as a summary, if you guys are selling, whether you're selling and buying, some of the buzzwords that you want to keep in mind is, do I bridge my mortgage? Do I port my mortgage? How do I get my deposit if I don't have it in my bank account? And as Nadia said, we could spend all day talking about a million things, but those would probably be the top 3 hot topics that I think most sellers are interested in when they're kind of talking about the financing surrounding selling and typically buying a new home. Quick update for you guys. Obviously, the Bank of Canada had a market update, an interest rate announcement today. I was happy to see, not as happy as I would have been if they made a rate drop, but I was happy to see that they didn't make a rate increase, because there's been a lot of inconsistency kind of buzzing around recently. Over the next 20 months, they're hoping to see interest rates, I should say prime rate, come down by about 1 to 2%. Our target inflation that we're moving towards is now 3%. And then if we can get it to 2% beyond that, we would be excited, because that's typically what kind of the standard inflation rate that we want to achieve is. But I want to bring your attention to bond yields. And this is something that I think people don't talk about enough. I frankly was like, oh, there's a Bank of Canada announcement today. And it's becoming less and less of a buzz because the Bank of Canada is what influences variable rate mortgages. Variable rate mortgages are currently, for new mortgage loans sitting about one to more like 1.5%, 2% higher than a lot of our fixed rates. So they're really not even that interesting. People who have variable rate mortgages are obviously paying very close attention to these announcements, but it's not really something that we're speaking about right now for new business, the same way that we're talking about bond yields. The bond market and bond yields is what helps us price fixed rate mortgages. And this is something that, more and more every single day I'm paying attention to. And it's a very different contrast than, last year when I felt like the only thing we were talking about was what is the Bank of Canada doing? My current favorite mortgage product is certainly a 3-year fixed mortgage. The longer the term, the lower the interest rate. Therefore, what your bank is really going to push to you is going to be a 5-year mortgage. Even banks are just all of a sudden, cold callers, and they're calling every single mortgage that they have, and they're trying to convince, the 70% of new mortgage business that they took over the last 2 years as variable rate mortgages to lock into a mortgage. And they're really pushing that 5-year fixed. And the selling point is, hey, take a 3-year fixed at 4.8 or take a 5-year fixed at, 4.5. Again, at face value, a 4.5 sounds a little bit nicer than a 4.8. But what does your bank actually gain from this? Well, we know that in the next 20 months, we're aiming towards Bank of Canada prime drops of about 1% to 2%. We're aiming for significantly lower inflation. And although we're not there yet, we're definitely well on our way. And we're starting to see signs of kind of positivity in bringing inflation back in line. Your bank is going to benefit a lot by having you at a 4.59 or 4.5 for the next 5 years, because they'll be selling interest rates in the next 2 to 3 years, probably closer to that 3% range. And you're going to be sitting there missing the party. And if you decide, hey, I'm going to break my mortgage and try to grab that lower rate, the typical fixed rate mortgage penalty is typically 5 to 8% of the balance of your mortgage. So they'll cash out there. Should you lock in or should you look around? Different banks are more interested in different products. Okay, so I'll give you an example. There's a big red bank who certainly over leveraged themselves over the last couple of years, and they're just straight up not interested in competing with a big green bank right now who has interest rates on the same product that are almost 1% lower. Okay, so if you're at a big red bank and they're calling you and offering you an interest rate to lock in that is 0.5, lower than your current rate, don't lock that in right away. Call a mortgage broker, call another bank, check out what else is out there, because there could be an interest rate that's even 0.5% lower than the one that they're offering you. And then when is the right time to lock in, and is it the right time to buy or sell? And this is something that I know Nadia and I agree on quite a bit. The answer is always, it depends. We can sit here and we can do math all day long. We can sit here and we can talk about economics all day long. The fact of the matter is, when we are consumers, we really care about how do these decisions affect our bottom line, our wallet, and our family today. I tell my clients all the time, listen, stop looking at the news and trying to price the exact perfect moment to lock in your mortgage or whether you should switch it all, and ask yourself, if the interest rate went up another 0.25%, how do you feel? Are you going to lose your home? Do you feel like you can't, send your kids to school with lunch? What exactly is going to happen here? If we answer those questions, it becomes very clear to us whether or not it's the right time to lock in, or whether we feel like we're, doing fine and we have a little bit of wiggle room to wait it out. The same thing is true for buying or selling. I don't believe timing the market is something that anyone should spend time doing. To me, that is like timing the stock market. Like, you're just not going to get it right. Elon Musk could go on a podcast with Joe Rogan and decide that he wants to smoke a blunt, and all of a sudden a Tesla stock is going to go down, right? There's so many, we're in a social world. Things can swing a lot differently than we've seen them over history. The right time to buy or sell is really based on you. If you have something to sell and you're looking to buy, typically you're in a pretty net neutral position because you're buying and selling in the same market. Okay, sure, maybe right now you're selling your home a little bit less than you would have at the peak last year, but on the buying side, you'll also be buying for a little bit less. Which one of those things is more important to you? And are you able to sell, at a price that makes sense for you and your family? If the answer to those questions is yes, then it might be the right time. And if it's no, then it might not be the right time. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to my part of things. I just wanted to drop my contact information if anybody wants to take a picture of it. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to reach out, whether you're looking for any type of financing right now, or you just want to pick my brain. Nadia knows this about me. Like, I just am totally nerding out all the time over mortgages. So don't hesitate to reach out.
I love that. Thank you so much, Michelle. You just deliver it in a way that kind of makes it a little bit more digestible and enjoyable. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. And without any further ado, I will ask Nabila. Do you guys have anything like visual aids that you want to share?
No.
No? Okay. So I and that's fine. That's fine. I think I mean, I would love for you guys to share a little bit about what you do. If anybody's seen my listings, you guys know that I've worked with Nabila and Lagaya quite a bit. They have a really, really keen eye for detail. They know what sells. I mean, it's no secret. Staged home sells faster. They could probably give you some statistics around that. I'll let you guys take the floor and then maybe I'll ask some questions.
Okay,
Yeah, sure.
definitely.
Cool.
Okay, sure, go. Well, you know what? Just like you said, Nadia, every property, every situation is unique. We see different type of properties on regular basis, and every situation is very unique. But when it comes to really prepping the house and getting it ready for marketing, there's a few things that are just generally applies to almost all of the properties when it goes in when it goes in the market. Usually, you know, the sellers, the homeowners, and they always ask me when I do a walkthrough during the consultations, as to what are the most important things to get ready to market my house, or do I really have to stage? And my answer is always to the question when they ask me, do I have to stage? No, we don't have to do anything. As a matter of fact, should we? Absolutely. And I think sometimes, even if it's not really just going through the whole staging process, I think just doing a few things that I'm just gonna just go through it are just gonna make the world of difference. So for example, like I always say, like, a clean house, it's like one of the top most important thing to have it to have a clean house when the house goes to the market. It shows a lot of love towards the house. It shows that when the potential buyers are walking into the house, that it just shows that the house has been cared for. I think just really decluttering and just showing the space. Those are some of the things that the homeowners can do before the staging, or even if they don't do staging. I think decluttering, cleanliness, lighting. I think I always say lighting plays a big role in marketing our property. And then when it comes to staging, obviously, we pay a lot of attention. If some of the benefits of staging, I know I'm biased because this is what I do. However, when it comes to when it comes to the potential buyers, when they're walking inside the property, only, like, really, and I'm being generous sometimes with the numbers with our clients, with the homeowners, like 10% of people really can envision a space and the potential of the space. So when we're talking about decluttering, the cleanliness of the house and the lighting and all of this, like, people just need to really see what the function of the space is, what the potential of the space is. And sometimes it's not even about just all brand bringing in, taking out all the old furniture and bringing in new furniture. So when we are doing a walkthrough, me and Lagaya, through the consultation of a home, we take a look at every single space, we take photos, and we create a consultation, and we make our recommendations, really recommendations. So it's obviously occupied home is different from a vacant home. Vacant home is, it's really like there's nothing to be removed. We're just going to be bringing in. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about occupied home because it's like a little bit, I think, especially with our homeowners, they're going through a lot when they're listing their home. They're anxious about the market. They're anxious, especially when they have kids. They're working full time. And they're doing so much, and especially when it's their first time selling, they are just so they're so stressed, and we want to make sure that we feel responsible to take away some of that anxiety and stress by answering some of the questions and giving them some of ideas, and that they can easily implement. So when we're doing a walkthrough and when we look at each space, it's really our main goal is to really market the property and show the potential of the space. And then that's when we look at each room. So if we're talking in the living room, sometimes it's not really the color of the sofa. We all live we all live in the comfort of our own space, our own style, what we like, whatever serves us the best when we are living in our home. But when we're marketing the home, we're actually marketing it for mass buyers, and we really need to show the space. So it's not about the color. Sometimes it's not about the color or the style of the furniture. It's what does that furniture do for the space, because we are selling real estate at the end of the day. It's not so much the furniture that comes it's not about the furniture. So when we are asking for certain pieces to be removed, it's either it's really oversized in this space, it's taking too much space, or sometimes if it's too small, because if it's oversized, it takes space. If it's too small, it makes the space look small. So those are the reasons. And we always want to make sure that, we leave about 30% space in each area of, in each room for the potential buyers when they're walking through the house, so they're not really banging into furniture, and there's a good flow to each room. And also a stage home, it really it focuses on the potential of the house and each space, and it kind of takes away from some of the challenges that are in each space. So when a space is really organized and clean and well put together, that's when people can actually envision themselves in that space. So when we're talking about the living space, when there's like a conversation space created, they can see that, okay, I can have friends and family over, and I can have my friends, we can sit, and and this is just how our mind works. And when it comes to dining area, the same thing, I can have family dinners and friends over, so on and so forth. I always say to our clients, oh, please clear up all the kitchen counters. So I'm just throwing an example. It's not so much because of the appliances all the time, or or their taste of let's say accessories, whatever's on the counters. It's really just to show the prep area and the kitchen counters. The more space that they see, the better it is for the buyers, and for the sellers. They need to see the space. So those are some of the things, and and another question that we always get when it comes. Oh, so when we are removing all these items, so where do we put them? Like, where should we put them? So every situation is different. If we're talking about a home, that has a garage, or if it has unfinished basement, you know, we always recommend that, okay, and you know, utilize your garage. I always say utilize your garage before taking things to the basement, because when you take furniture, for example, to the basement, it's like it's extra work taking it downstairs, and then when you are moving, then you have to take it back out. But in the garage, it's easier access as long as it's like clean, neatly piled up, because garage at the end of the day is a garage. It's like a 1-car garage, 2-car garage, 4-car garage, unless somebody has spent $100,000-$200,000 upgrading a garage. But you know, we have done hundreds and hundreds of staging, and I think I've run into one garage like that. But other than that, sorry, Nadia, you have a question?
Would you say that a lot of your clients, because I know like for the houses that you've done for me, it's either been vacant or my clients have used a lot of their furniture. We bring in a few different pieces and they'll store some things in the basement or the garage.
Yeah.
But would you say that like, do a lot of people have trouble storing all of their stuff? Like I would think for a lot of people, it's a tough thing to do. Like they don't always have the space for all this stuff,
For
right?
sure. You know,
And are they renting storage space temporarily sometimes?
yes. Yeah, so I gave them a few recommendations. So number one, that I always take a look at their garage. If they have space in the garage, I always I take a look at how much, because before even I send the consultation, I kind of have an idea of how much would they need to store there, and would they be able to use their garage. So I will take a look at it and say, okay, you know what, you can utilize your garage, just neatly pile them up, or place them on one side of the garage if they don't, if they can just park their car outside and they don't need it, or in their basement, or sometimes they have larger storage rooms downstairs, or whatever the case is. And in some cases, like in the condos, for example, you know, some of them come with a locker, and 90% of the time those lockers are full. And in some cases, even the houses, if they have a lot, if they own a lot, or a lot needs to come out, then we always recommend, it's a great investment to get a storage unit nearby. I know sometimes, you know, yes, it's an extra cost of $300 to $500 a month, but within that 30 days, so if you guys have a realtor like Nadia, she will hopefully sell your house within that 30 days. And, you know, it's a great investment to take that into the storage. And this is actually, and we try to explain to our homeowners that this is a good time to actually go and purge if there's anything that they don't need. So, you know, for example, to get some boxes and some bags or some bins, whatever it is, and as you're going through, once I send it, when we send the consultation, to go room by room and say, okay, you know what, these are the items I'm keeping, and I'm just gonna, you know, if I need to remove some things because I'm gonna be taking it to my next home. Let's say that you're working in a primary bedroom, have a box that you're storing and have a bag that you're purging, and either have a marker or sticker or something, and as soon as you close that box and just put a sticker on it that, okay, whatever it came from the closet, or came from the dresser, came whatever, so at least it makes it easier. And then you know, those are the things that you're not using on daily basis if you're living in your home during the sale of the house. And if they are living there, because most of the time, if it's an occupied home, they're living in their house, so they can actually leave whatever that they need in their primary bedroom. They can leave it in their ensuite, like in the cabinets. We're just talking about extra items, like, you know, when a walk-in closet is full, like completely full, like, would we need really in the real world are we going to wear all of that within that 30 days? Most likely not.
Well, and that's it, right?
We live
I
in a
think
world.
people forget that like the goal is to move. You're going to need to pack it all up
Yes,
eventually
yeah,
anyway. So why not get that
exactly,
process started, right?
Yeah, and it is and that's what I try to explain to them, like, if you, most likely it will be almost impossible to be able to use all of what's there within that 30 days. We usually just give a window of 30 days. Let's assume that this is what's gone, within 30 days. And really, like, they can actually take out at least 50% of what's in that closet, and we're not talking about taking everything out. Our goal is to make this process easier for them, not to add on more stress. It is not about me myself making myself look good, or our company. It's about the process. It's about their home at the end of the day, and they need to, because especially when there's when they have younger kids, there's a lot of toys around.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah,
Like, I think that that's what a lot of clients get scared of, is like, I have pets, I have young kids. What's going to happen when their fingerprints are all over that rented sofa? So
for
what do you
sure.
guys recommend for things like that?
Yeah, well, when it comes to occupied property that have kids and they have pets, obviously we try to use their furniture as much as we can, if it is possible. In some cases, it's possible. In some cases, unfortunately, it is just not. So our goal is not so much. Our goal is to really highlight the potential of that space. And so, we had a client that she had like two cats. So she told us ahead of time, if you can just kind of bring in the type of furniture that, there are certain fabrics that some cats are not really attracted to as much as the other. So we are conscious of that. So we try to take things that are pet friendly or cat friendly. Dogs are, or whatever the situation is in each property. So we try our best in that way. In some cases, they when the house is not being shown, they usually just throw like a throw or a blanket over it, or sheets. We just did actually the house for you, that she has two beautiful cats, and she sent me the photos with the cats on the sofa, and she had covered it, which is beautiful. And I thank her for that, which is amazing. But we go through all of these like steps with the homeowner, so they're not so anxious. I think one of the things that when it comes to occupied home, a lot of times, which I'm gonna give this to Lagaya to explain, is that how to maintain the beds. Like, we try our best. So when we're staging occupied homes, especially vacant houses, a little bit different, because you stage it, you leave, and it stays like that till it's sold. But occupied home, they're living there, kids are living there, pets are living there, they have visitors, they have friends, family coming over. So they always ask, like, okay, now you made the bed, like, how do I do this? Like, where does my bedding go? Like, how do I sleep on this? What do I do when, tomorrow when there's showings? So I'm gonna give this to Lagay, and she will explain a little bit how we communicate with our homeowner.
Yeah. Usually during occupied stages, like, I just always try to put our bedding, which is generally white, because it just like adds brightness to the space, makes it look a little bit cleaner and more elegant. But I'll just put it right over their bedding, so they don't have to worry about storing their stuff, because sometimes, like Nabila said, their closets are completely full. So there's honestly not even an inch of space sometimes when we go to houses to put anything away. But yeah, like, I'll just put it directly over their bedding. Sometimes I'll even use their pillows if they have. But aside from that, after they do the photography, which is hopefully the same day, usually that's the best, so that everything is neat and tidy and perfect in their spot. But yeah, I just always tell them, just take our bedding off, leave it to the side, take a picture beforehand, and then when you have showings, just try and make it the best you can. And yeah, that's really all we can ask. We try not to do anything like too complicated. it's usually just like 3-4 pillows and just a nice white bedding over it. And yeah, just keep it in the corner until you need it.
And you guys, that's what I've also noticed is that, you know, sometimes sellers will have the best of intentions and they'll be like, oh, sure, I'll do everything that's on the staging consultation report, but time gets away from them and there's a lot more work than they expected. And they've only dealt with half of the stuff that's on the consultation report and the recommendations. But what I love is that you guys seem to be able to work with what they leave behind. Like you will always work with what you have to make it present as well as possible. So that's a good thing for sellers to know, because I think that it can be overwhelming to feel like you're going to have this stuff that's in your house that doesn't belong to you. You still need to live in the home. You've got to downsize your life considerably for the sake of your sale. But you always you'll always make it look the best for what we have.
Yeah, we try to be mindful of the situations. You know, like people go, there's like, I mean, people are buying, people are selling, sometimes because they're downgrading. People are selling because they're upgrading. People are selling sometimes, unfortunately, because they're going through a divorce.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're going through a death in the family. Like we don't know what the situation is, and sometimes, you know, so it could be there's a reason behind it, and sometimes it's a happy reason, sometimes it's a sad reason. So you know, we some most of the time they share with us, like they share with us during consultations where, you know, why they're selling and where they're buying and whatever the case is, and sometimes they don't, and that's okay. That's something that we leave for them to let us know. However, we try to stay as mindful as possible when we go in. Like obviously in the perfect world we like them to follow the consultations, because the more that they do, and I always say this, like everything that is done before pre-marketing the property, all the investment of time, energy, and effort, it will find its way to pay back. It's either through more showings, getting higher price, you know, even with the conditions, so many things. There's so many different ways that it's gonna find its way to pay back. So the more that they can actually do before the house goes in the market, it will pay off. And we try to explain that to them as much as possible. Even just simple things as like making sure there's no burnout light bulbs, making sure there's not two different kind of lights and color lights in the house, like when they're showing yellow and white lights. These are important. So let's just pick, I even send them the links from Amazon where they can buy it, you know, and they can buy in a bulk of, like, you know, there's cheaper ways, like, you know, inexpensive, I don't want to say cheaper, inexpensive ways to actually, not everything is so costly, like, you know, just a box of light bulbs, getting like 12 or 24 of them, like, you know, $20-$30. It's a great investment. Or if there's a broken light fixture, changing that, or if there's like, you know, I don't know, chip paints that it could just be touched up, all of that. It makes a difference, you know, when people are coming in. And also we live in a digital world nowadays, like everything we purchase, everything we do, like we gotta, like everybody has to like it first, not has to, like that's the world we're in. So people will see the house before they will come inside the house. They will see it digitally before they come in. So the photos and videos are important when they're looking at it. So those things makes a difference. The lighting, like I said, the decluttering, you know, just removing some of the personal, if it's, you know, when there's too much personal stuffs in the house, so much decorations and personal items, it
Distracting.
Yeah, it's very distracting, and also it confuses the buyers when they're coming in. Their eyes doesn't know where to go. So if it's in the living room and there's a beautiful fireplace, we like their eyes to go to the fireplace instead of going into like so many chichkas around the house.
Mhm.
Or if there's a beautiful window, like, and then there's like, we usually ask if there's dark curtains. We usually ask them if, especially when there's blinds, we ask like, let's just remove them. And we explain to them why. Because we want their eyes to go to the windows, and the height of the drapes, it makes a difference. So those are the little things. I mean, there's a lot that we can talk about, but sorry, I wanted to talk about the toys. Like, there's a lot of, whenever there's like 2, 3 kids in the house, there's a lot of toys, and parents are attached to these toys, and I understand that. I had one client that literally, like, the basement and the lower level was and it was a large house, and there was not even an inch of space to walk because it was all toys. And she valued every toy because there was a memory attached to it. So, and I get that. And but anyway, I mentioned to her that, okay, so if you just to get some clear bins, and then she can just mark them as like, okay, whatever's like, I don't know, Barbies or whatever. I don't know. My son is 26 years old. I forgot the toys, what kind of toys are in now. But so she can at least she can still see it then in the bins. And then she can just keep it aside and then just bring it, like, so at least not all of them are open. In
Pagan.
another case, there was so much, but they were not so attached to it. And I said, okay, you can give it to donation, or you can just actually leave it on the street and just say free, take it. And within 5 minutes, all of those extra toys that the kids did not want to play with anymore, he left it on the street and they were all gone. And what a beautiful thing to do. Some other kids are gonna play with it. So those are just some of the little things that we can share with the homeowners, but depends on the situation, depends on the circumstances, depends on their timeline. Yeah, if there's any more questions I can answer, we always do our best to answer as much as possible.
I
And
appreciate it. No, you've been great. And like I love how even my clients can contact you directly for questions, and they do when we work together. So it means a lot to me. And you're right. Same thing with Michelle, same thing with you guys, same thing with me, same thing with Tom. The sooner you guys can start the process and start those conversations and have as much preparation as possible, the better off you're going to be. And same thing with home inspection. That's why it's so important to do a pre-sale home inspection, because you can find those things that are problems and address them before you go to market and all the public and the buyers see your home. So without any further ado, thank you, Nabila and Ligaya, for sharing all of that. I'm going to have Tom share his presentation. And I think I've got to share hold on, share this one. And it's this guy right here for Tom. Can you guys see that presentation?
Yeah, I can see it.
Super. Take
Is
it
that the
away. Thank
is
you
that
so
the
much,
first
Tom, for
page?
being here. And I'm looking forward to our inspection that we have on Friday together.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm going to try to keep this as concise as possible, being the last one. I'm sure everyone has something that they want to get to, but just very quickly, what I'm going to cover is essentially the role of a home inspector in this process, what is included in a pre-sale home inspection, really highlight what the benefits are of actually getting this done before you list a house on the market, as well as what we commonly find in homes and some of the things that can actually turn people away. But there's strategies that we can develop to kind of mitigate that. So in a nutshell, we're going to try to cover all of these in a concise manner as possible. So next slide, Nadia. Okay, so just very quickly, the role of a home inspector is really to help prepare you to have your home be put on the market. It is really to provide an unbiased opinion. We come in there with no biases. We really look at the house and we give you the honest to goodness truth. And here's the good and the bad, and we present it in a form a report that you can then take away and then action. And the last thing that some people do forget is that we're actually there to kind of flag anything that might be unsafe or that requires immediate repair. Anything when we do home inspections, that anything that's related to health, related to safety, is always of paramount of importance, and that is, belongs to not only someone potentially buying the home, but even someone who lives in the home. One quick example is if I'm looking at a furnace, for example, and there's a cracked heat exchanger. You don't need to know what that is, but basically you can get deadly carbon monoxide poisoning vented through your home because you didn't even realize there's a crack, because no one knows what a heat exchanger is and no one looks inside their furnace. So we're actually looking for those safety features as well to make it safe for everyone, present and future people. Okay. Next slide. Okay. What home inspectors look at is basically all of the major components of a home. And by major, these are like the things you see on the screen. We're looking at things like structure, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, roof, attic, insulation, and much, much more. One of the things that we don't do is we really don't care about cosmetic items. So, if there's a scratch on your floor, if there's a nail pop in your wall, if there's a little bit of dirt in the corner, those will never make it in a home inspection. And we see many homeowners very worried about these things. And we try to reassure them that no one's not going to put an offer in because there's a nail pop in your wall. So let's not really sweat the small stuff. Cosmetic items are definitely beyond the scope, and nor should they ever be considered in purchasing a home anyway. But we covered the major items. Okay. Next. So, what is a pre-sale home inspection? A pre-sale home inspection is similar to a regular home inspection. However, it goes above and beyond that, because in addition to being a comprehensive examination of the home, we don't want to just highlight, hey, here are the 5, 10 things that really need to be looked at, but we also do want to highlight the good things, right? So if you installed a new roof 1 year ago, well, you know what? We're going to take pictures of that roof and we're going to broadcast that very proudly in the report, saying new roof shingles here, take a look, it looks great. Traditionally, for regular home inspections, we don't highlight the good things. It's unfortunately a very negative report because we're highlighting things that require attention. So that's kind of the big difference. The other thing is, in addition to providing the report which summarizes it, you will actually have a chance before the home gets on the market to do a number of things with it, and then we can talk about how that gets handled otherwise. But essentially, it's like a home inspection, but we do highlight the good things, and we also include a summary page at the front where if you don't want to give someone a full 40, 50-page report, here's a nice little one pager you can hand to prospective buyers and saying, yep, here are the major things. The structure is good, the electrical is good, the plumbing is good, etc. So that's kind of what we're trying to achieve with a pre-sale home inspection.
Super.
Next. Okay. So the real benefit of a pre-sale is threefold. Number one, when you get an inspection report, you are really getting a look into the glass window. You're going to see what kinds of things are really, that need to be addressed in your home. So it gives you an advanced look on things that you might not even know are issues, and it gives you an opportunity to address it. So if an inspection report has 20 items on it, we don't expect you to fix all 20, but at least you know where they are. And you might say, you know what, I can actually take care of items 7 and 8 and 10. So, and if you do that, that's great. So take care of 7, 8, and 10, take a picture of those, send it back to us. And at least with our company, we will generate a brand new fresh report having those items actually removed. So the report is actually smaller and reads more positively. So it's an opportunity there. I do want to sort of take a sidestep here. I have had pre-list inspection reports where the home seller, oh, sorry, go back to the last one.
Sorry.
Where they would say, please don't mention this or please add that. those ones there are kind of tricky. We are really supposed to be unbiased and provide our opinion on things. And as long as it's not a major safety issue or health concern, we're usually okay with things like that. So we will do our very best to showcase the home in the best light possible, but we're not going to cover things up or not mention it if it needs to be mentioned. So, but it does give you a chance to know in advance, because even with a pre-list report, you might get someone who puts an offer in that says, yeah, it's a 5-day conditional on financing and home inspection. They might still want to get their own home inspector. And if you say, please don't show the blank in the corner, another inspector in theory should find that, and then you're going to have to deal with why wasn't that in the first one. So kind of keep that in mind. Okay, the other thing when you're preparing for an inspection is just go over all of the major components of your home. Are they in good working order? Maybe having a tune-up done or a maintenance inspection is a good idea, and those are really just for the major components like the furnace or the air conditioner or the water heater, fireplaces, that sort of thing. So this way here, there will be no surprises. Surprises are the ones that can come up later on and say, oh, shoot, we didn't realize there's a $5,000 furnace repair bill that you need. So now I want to knock off $5,000 off the price of the house, when you can probably take care of it yourself. So just make sure that all the major systems are in good working order. It's a good way to kind of prepare. Okay, next. And change your filters. People don't realize that you have more than one filter in a house. This is a picture of what's called an HRV. It's a heat recovery ventilator. People don't know what this is. They don't take care of it. And then you open it up and it looks nasty. But furnace filters, evaporator pads, HRVs, even range hoods filters, make sure they're all nice and clean. It just makes for a better showing. Okay.
Is that right?
Okay,
Sorry.
perfect. Now, this next one is kind of a tricky thing for sellers. If you live in an older home in the GTA, more often than not, you are going to come across environmental hazards. I know you're doing the big, please stay away, but it's a reality. Older homes, you will find things like asbestos, you will find mold, you will find formaldehyde, you will find lead. These are things that are very much in a lot of homes to this very day. So what's important to note about them is if you're not sure if you have one, well, your pre-inspection report might be able to help you with that. We certainly do. We do all of these. And it gives you a chance to kind of say, yeah, you know what, we have a little bit of mold here in the basement, and let's have that addressed, or let's have it cleaned up, right? It gives you a chance to fix it, because if you don't do anything about it and then you say, oh, there's mold here or there's asbestos there, they're going to say, oh, yeah, well, that's going to cost $100,000 to remediate. When in reality, it's just a few $1,000s. So save yourselves the headache, get it looked at, maybe even just get quotes saying, okay, yeah, we know we have asbestos. We got a quote from 2 reputable companies. They say the abatement cost is only going to be $2,000. So don't try to reduce my price by 10 when I know it's only 2. So it's a good idea to do it. So don't get scared. Don't get nervous or lose sleep over this. These are things that can very easily be handled as long as you're prepared, as long as you know that it's there. Everything will get fleshed out in the final end anyway, but it will just save you a ton of headaches. So those are some of for older homes in particular. Okay.
I'd say those are probably, from my experience, those are the things that are what cause buyers to walk away the most frequently. Like if
And
there's
there's
anything
nothing
to
more
kill a deal,
powerful
it's one of
than
those
being
things.
armed with a quotation from a reputable company saying, I can take care of that. And so it's only going to cost you $3,000.
Yeah.
Then it takes all of the wishy-washiness, all of the uncertainty, all of the bad blood or feelings in between, because negotiations can be very stressful. It just eliminates that, and then the process goes that much smoother. Okay, next. Okay, the other thing that we often would like to see before coming in to do a pre-listing is the attic. Normally it's in a very small closet, and it's difficult to get to, and people store a lot of things in their closets. So it's not a bad idea to kind of clear out that closet. If there's a shelf, if there's boxes, Maybe even put a little drop cloth down on the floor because sometimes attic insulation will fall down. But if you can clear that out ahead of time, it just goes much easier in terms of the process for us, as well as protecting your personal goods, so nothing gets sort of bent or damaged or dropped on or and so on. Okay, so here's a list of some of the commonly found items that we see in maybe 90% of the homes. So I myself personally have done thousands and thousands of inspections. All of these items I find in most homes. So, things like caulking or extending downspouts or loose handrails, these are all things that oftentimes can be taken care of by a homeowner and then they just don't show up. I'm not expecting you to climb up on a ladder high up onto the second floor gutters to do anything you're not comfortable with or you feel is challenging or unsafe. Obviously, don't do it. We don't want you to risk getting hurt. But these are things that can come up that more often than not homeowners can actually take care of and just eliminates all these items out of your report so people don't have to rifle through thinking, oh my gosh, it's a binder full of stuff that I have to fix. But most of these are really easy to do. Okay. Next. And even though I've touched on this a little bit, I'm going to just give you a few examples of items that can negatively influence buyers when they're coming into a home. So let's go through a couple of simple examples. Okay. So this is a picture of an attic that you can see an exhaust fan from a bathroom or from a dryer vent that was basically in an attic. I will also tell you, just sort of a segue, probably 99% of all homeowners never go in an attic. It's dark, it's creepy, there's spiders. So a lot of people don't like to go in it. But hey, I go into it every day, multiple times. So it's not that big of a deal. And this is where oftentimes we find surprises. So if you're a homeowner and you think your house is impeccable and you've never gone in the attic, and then we go in the attic and then we find a whole bunch of things. So there's nothing more disheartening than saying, oh my gosh, what is happening up there? This is going to cost me a fortune. Well, no, not really. This is a very easy fix. And unfortunately, it was just sloppy workmanship. Whoever installed the duct just didn't terminate it properly, and all that moisture from the dryer duct hit the cold wood and create all this black mold and so on. In this case here, it's just a surface mold, so it's very easy to remedy. But the M word will scare away a lot of people. We don't want to talk about the M word if we don't have to. So if you can find out about the M in your home ahead of a listing, you can pay for someone to come in and into the little dungy attic and clean it up for surprisingly not a lot of money. It's a couple of grand and this can all be gone and it just saves you a ton of headaches. So yeah, let's go look in the attic and let's make sure that everything is okay. Next. This one here you don't see as often, but what you're looking at here is essentially there's 4 2x10 beams. It's a support beam for a house that is sitting on a single 2x4 in a crawl space. So this is a major load-bearing point in a home. Whoever put a 2x4 to support the main beam is out to lunch, quite frankly. This is a major structural problem. And believe it or not, this is actually difficult to remedy. Oh, you can go back. Yeah, this is actually difficult to remedy because you have to install footings. You got to go deep underground with these concrete blocks. You got to install a steel post. You got to, span all of that work. So, but let's make sure the structure is fine. We're really looking for beams and columns and bowing and so on. Sometimes they're pretty obvious like this, but these are significant in terms of cost. And that, as soon as you say, oh, there's a major structural problem with your home, it scares them away. So this is one example of something that we can see and we do see. Okay, next. This is dealing with a picture of some typical knob and tube wiring. Again, this is more for older homes. There's surprisingly a lot of this still out there in the market today. I'm actually surprised at how often I see this. Just very quickly, knob and tube wiring is an obsolete form of electrical. It does only utilizes two wires, positive, the black and the white, the neutral and the power. It does not have a ground. It is obsolete, and that means sometimes even things like a home insurance, when a buyer comes in to buy it, they might have a challenge getting home insurance on knob and tube wiring because of the risk of fire and shorting out and electrical shock, that sort of thing. And unfortunately, the cost to rewire a typical, two-story, 2,000 square foot home in Toronto is expensive. You're looking at maybe between 20, 25, 30 grand if you had to run new wires through a house. So this is something that if you're not sure what kind of wiring you have, a pre-list report will actually tell you this and can prepare you. So you can either action it yourself or just say, you know what, we're going to leave it as is. We're going to factor that into the price. We'll have the reduction already there as a result of that, and then you just leave it alone for the new sellers to action it if they need to. But this can and does scare away a lot of people. Okay, next. So this one is showing aluminum wiring. It might be hard to see on your picture, but if you look at those wires that are going into the electrical panel, those are breakers. The color of the wire is not a copper brown texture. It's more like a silver color. That is aluminum wiring. Um, the funny thing with aluminum wiring is it's actually a really good conductor of electricity, and it's used a lot in today's modern commercial applications because it's so good. We just don't like it in homes because most homeowners, they like to tinker. They like to install their own little lights and plugs and switches, and they're pulling the wires and bending the wires and doing all kinds of things. And that's where it becomes a problem because just very simply, if you took a piece of copper wiring, if you bent it and then put it back and then run current through it, not a problem. Take a piece of aluminum wiring, you bend it and you pull it back, and now you run electricity through it. Because it cracks, it will actually overheat, enlarge, and create a fire. So, insurance companies don't like it. I don't want anyone to get caught in the fire because of this. And again, rewiring can be expensive if necessary. The good news is for aluminum wiring, you actually don't necessarily have to rewire the whole house. There are techniques, and I won't get into the details of it, where you can basically, it's called pigtailing. You can basically add a little piece of copper to it with a paste, and it goes into the outlets. It'll take care of it. But it's pretty darn important to know if you have this or not, because people will try to use any excuse to not put an offer in or to reduce the bid price when they see something like that, even though it's a great conductor of electricity. But a lot of homes have aluminum wiring, and homes usually built in the 70s, roughly. If the wiring has not been updated, you know 9 times out of 10, it's going to be aluminum. So 70 to 80, you're looking more than likely at aluminum wiring. Okay, next. Um, this is if you see a lot of this, especially in older neighborhoods. So this is a picture of me in an attic and all those little black marks on there. In addition to the insulation being missing, that's basically dropping. So this is critters have gotten up into the attic. I believe this was a raccoon. I can't tell. I'm not a poop expert, but it looks like raccoons got up there, and they're looking for a place of shelter, place of comfort and warmth, and they're up there. So you might hear the little pitter patters at nighttime. You might not, but especially if it was raccoons, their droppings are actually quite poisonous. And if there's kids running around and you step on it and it's on your shoes and you bring your shoes inside and then you move them away and your kids are putting things in their mouth, very dangerous. So, be on the lookout for critters, right? And try to have them addressed. And if there are critters in your home, and let's say, I don't know, you have mice and you put little mice traps out to keep them away. And if you think you've got them all gone, great. Don't forget to remove the mouse traps, because then I'm going to find them. I'm going to say, oh, there's mouse traps here. There's a problem with vermin. So take care of them, and then remove the evidence, so to speak. So that people aren't worried, because critters can damage things. They can chew on wires, and they defecate and pee all over the place, and it smells. So yeah, that's something that you definitely want to keep an eye on. Again, particularly for older homes. Okay. So that's kind of it in a really short, hopefully that was concise for everybody. My contact information is here on the page. If anyone has further questions or you want to talk about any of these items, more than happy to chat. But thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of time with you and walk you through some of the things that we see and the benefits of a pre-list inspection report and how it can help you. So with that said, I will pass it over to you, Nadia.
I'm
Oh,
muted.
you're still on mute. There you go.
Thank you so much, Tom. I really, really appreciated all of that. I think that's a big thing. It's like, what do I fix? I get that a lot. Like, what should I fix? And besides aesthetic things to make the home show better, I think a lot of people neglect the fact that like ungrounded outlets, little things that they can do that will make a big difference to whether you get like a 3-page home inspection report or like a 45-page home inspection report. And
Very
like
true.
a lot of buyers don't even read all the details. They just get scared when they see a 45-page home inspection report. So the more you can do to mitigate any potential red flags with the property, the better off you're going to be in the selling process. So I appreciate all of that very much.
You're very welcome.
That's all we've got for tonight. I really appreciate everybody who took the time to take out of their evening, a beautiful evening in Toronto, to share their expertise and their knowledge. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask, feel free to message. You have all of the experts' contact information, and we'd be happy to hear from you. I think that's about it. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks again. Have a great night, everybody.
You too.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.